Hello and welcome to the 307th episode of the Board Game Barrage podcast. My name is Mark, I am the Green Tank, and I'm joined, as always, by Neil the Orange Tank.
Hello.
And Kellen the Red Tank.
Name anything else in your life that you've done 307 times. Anything.
Well, there's one, but I can't. This is a family show, so I can't mention that.
Wow.
Thought about Biblios. I probably thought about Biblios more than that, though.
A man of the people.
That's true. That is what I am. That's my nickname. That's why I got the tattoo. On today's episode, we are going to be going over the 2023 Golden Geek nominees. We are not going to be going over the Golden Geek winners, even though they may be announced by the time this episode comes out, because we are taping them in advance, knowing full well that by the time you hear this episode, the winners might be revealed. But you know what? I don't think that matters, because you know what I think is really fun? People record and release episodes of things that might happen in the future, and they guess about like the draft. I hate to make this about sports, but the NFL draft comes up and people are like, oh, the Jets are going to pick this guy in first and this guy second, and who's going to happen. And there's all this talk about it. But what's really fun, at least for me, is listening to those episodes after the draft has taken place and realizing whether people were idiots or not. That's the fun part, going back and listening. So here, you get to hear us being idiots because we probably picked the wrong thing, and you don't have to worry about going back and listening to an old episode to figure out where we talked about it. You can just hear us being idiots right now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. All the speculation of the past brought to you today.
Exactly. There's no burying an episode because we got things wrong. We are being upfront and honest. That's what we're all about.
Yesterday's tomorrow today would be a better way to say that.
What?
Exactly. Well, yeah.
No one can understand that in the radio format. They're not going to rewind to listen to what you just said. I would prefer we do this afterwards, but pretend like it was before so we can sound like savants.
That is a good idea. We'll do that for next year. But this year, we're going to be going over all the categories, and at least I think we'll probably touch on all the categories. I can't promise a deep dive on board game app of the year because I don't know if I played any, but we'll at least touch on all of them. I know Kellen is big in the print and play category, so he'll cover that one. But before we talk about the Golden Geek nominees, we're going to be talking about the games we've played. Neelan will start us off with Ironwood. I'll be talking about Kutná Hora, and Kellen will go over Slay the Spire. Speaking of board game apps,
the board
games
game
from apps.
No, it's not an app.
That's right.
It's a board game.
Right.
Okay, I understand
I
why you might be confused, but yeah.
Yeah. Neelan, tell us about Ironwood.
Yeah, so Ironwood is Mind Clash's next game. This was sent to us as a review copy for their upcoming Game Found campaign. I believe it'll be live within a couple of days of this episode going up. This is a two-player asymmetric skirmish game. It is a card-driven game where you have two sides, which, as I said, asymmetric. They play completely different from one another. One of which occupies the forests. These are the woodwalkers. And one of which occupies the mountains. These are the ironclad. The way that the board is laid out, it is a network of locations connected by mountains. And in between each of those locations are the forests. The woodwalkers are always in the forests. The ironclad are always in the mountains. They're always just moving along the things. They can never move into each other's territory. But critically, they can attack each other into adjacent territory. So the woodwalkers attack any of the mountain locations from adjacent forests and vice versa. Each faction has completely different goals, which I think I should mention first before we get into the nitty-gritty of the gameplay, which is the Ironclad are trying to set up 4 forges at mountain locations. They have a drill that starts in the center of the map, that they're sort of moving around the map, getting crystals. They're trying to see how far they can push the drill before moving it back to a forge in order to retrieve those crystals, which are on the drill effectively. And then they can use those crystals in order to build foundations and then turn those foundations into forges. Once they have 3 forges, they win the game. The woodwalkers, what they're trying to do is retrieve totems, which are in these mountain cities. So they attack the mountain cities to clear them of defense. They recover a totem from that city, and then they have to take it to the outer forest. And once they've done that 3 times, they win. The way that this plays out is each faction has a completely different deck of cards. You're going to play one of your cards, and that's going to have a bunch of different actions on it. Those might be move some of your fighters in between these wood locations, spend X amount of crystals in order to recruit more people to these forests. A variety of different options. Critically, you have 3 cards in your hand, which always return to your hand at the end of the round. And these are where your core actions come in. Stuff like discovering the totems, important attack actions. In the case of the Ironclad player, this would be how they build their forges and so on. But the rest of their cards in their hand are drawn at the beginning of every round. So there's a rotating selection of new interesting cards coming to their hand every round, as well as these core base cards. These cards also double as attack cards, so when you trigger an attack, you're also choosing one of those to play face down. And this is a combat system that's a little bit similar to something like Komet's, where damage is separated from victory. So you're both trying to score high on damage in order to kill the opposing player's units, as well as score victory, whichever faction wins causes the other faction to retreat. You're trying to do this as the Woodwalkers in order to clear out these mountains so that you can discover your totems, get them back to the forest, and so on. So that's kind of the general flow of the game. It's a pretty simple system all told. Most of the nuance comes out from the asymmetry of the factions. Kellen commented, and I agree, it does feel a little bit like Root in this way that the board is kind of laid out, the way that factions offer unique positions in their terms of their starting geography, their objectives being different, but then in a system that's kind of woven together very smartly between the two. Kellen, you played a game of this. What did you think of Ironwood?
I always get a little bit nervous when we do Kickstarter previews, you know what I mean? As my sentence is, I love this game, parts of it are trash, everyone should check it out. And then they're just going to edit it to say, I love this game, ... everyone should check it out. That's all I have to say. No, I'm just joking. No, this was very clever. The production is lavish, super lavish. And it sounds like there are holo cards that we also didn't use, Neelan.
Annoyingly. Well, because there's this promo pack included, and I thought those were going to be like expansion cards or updated cards. All they were foily versions of the base cards, and like, we should have used those.
Yes. But I think what was cool, and Neelan sort of explained it, is like I was moving across the board and Neelan was moving between the sort of map on the route, so he was sort of surrounding places. I would say that like the card play felt impactful and clever. I felt like there was the right amount of sort of luck baked into this. There's a lot of sort of outguess your opponent, and I liked it in the context of the battles. I was a little less clear on like what happens if I discover what your prophecy is, right? Because Neelan's faction had like one specific place that they had to get get a totem. And there's a little bit of me trying to guess where he's going because he's surrounding me everywhere. And it's like, oh, is he going there? Is he fainting here? And there's a little bit of like, if I guess that correctly every time, am I bound to win? And like that fuzziness isn't as fun for me as like the fuzziness of us both committing combat cards for whatever it's worth. But I was excited. I got to have a drill. My drill got to pierce the heavens. Neelan didn't get anywhere with his totems. Neelan, did you even see a totem?
I got one. I got a totem out.
You got one totem.
I got one totem out.
You saw it, but you didn't even get it back to the clear.
I definitely did.
Are you kidding me? Are you
I got a totem.
Okay, Neelan, are you familiar with the term garbage time?
No.
Mark, he got a totem
of course.
during garbage time.
Garbage time.
Garbage
oh,
time.
I see.
Do you understand,
I
Neelan?
get it. I think I get it. Like, it didn't matter. You just gave it to me. You let me have it.
No, it's like when the game is over and like one team has already won and then the other team runs up their points. So like the quarterback, it looks like he has good stats, but they were all acquired during garbage time. You may have gotten a totem, but it may have been during garbage time.
Okay, I will concede that my garbage totem didn't stack up to your monumental fortress of iron forges.
Neelan, your stats on BG stats are inflated.
Yeah, he runs up scores in garbage time, folks. You heard it here. It's cute. It's cute.
Yeah, definitely. I want to comment on a couple of things that you said, which I think are worth calling out, like stuff like the production. One of the aspects of the production that I would also describe as cute is all the ironclad pieces are metal, all the woodwalker pieces are wood. That's a lovely little production choice. The art on all of these cards I thought was fantastic. I will agree that there was like a healthy balance of good, solid strategic gameplay as in when you're going to utilize cards. Because one thing that you'd mentioned that is a possibility in the rules is that you can get multiple prophecy cards to kind of split split your forces a little bit, but then that's an expenditure of time because you can only use that card once per round. So there is a little bit of a trade-off there, but that is counterbalanced by something that I was a little bit less sure about, which is there are a lot of cards that kind of just like break rules in very powerful ways, and every now and again those just feel like this feels too good to be true or too powerful, or you get one used against you and that just kind of feels rough. And that's kind of true of both factions in my experience. So there's a little bit of that you have to be okay with, but the decks are pretty small. So again, on repeat plays, all of these will bear out. You will know the tricks and traps to be aware of in the other faction. I thought this was pretty neat. It's certainly one I want to keep in my collection. I worry that the shelf life on it is much, much lower than a game like Root, just by virtue of the fact that it is 2-player only and there are only 2 factions. I don't know that it's possible that they're going to be able to expand this, but I'm curious as to how they will, I'm curious as to how they might. It's a very good system and one that I think has potential if they end up reusing it in other matchups down the line. But that is Ironwood. Very intrigued by this by Mindclash Games.
So I got a chance to play Kutná Hora, the City of Silver. I know Kellen likes his colons. Designed by, and apologies in advance, Andrei Briston, Peter Kaslava, and Pavel Jarisic, and published by CGE. We'll talk more about innovative games and the most innovative games of the year when we go over the Golden Geek Awards, but CGE, at least for me, is certainly a publisher known for putting out games that I would consider innovative. You got Galaxy Trucker, Space Alert, Adrenaline, Pictomania, even mainstream hits like Codenames and commercial flops like Deal with the Devil, I would all classify in some way as innovative. Kutná Hora is no different. So in Kutná Hora, you're playing as, I think, business owners in the burgeoning town of Kutná Hora, a real town, where silver went from being discovered in the 14th century to, at one point, Kutná Hora was the supplier of 1/3 of Europe's total silver production. So it was a town that blew up when silver was discovered. And so in Kutná Hora, you're going to be going down into the mines, you're going to be building up the city, founding businesses and public buildings, all the while trying to stay ahead of the fluctuating economy, which is the big gimmick in the game. Before I talk about the dynamic economy, I'm just going to run through how the game works really quick. And despite the fact that I call this a heavy game, not super heavy, but certainly heavy, with a lot of things going on, I think the rules explanation is generally pretty clear and straightforward. So the game is going to go either 5 or 6 rounds, depending on player count, and each round works exactly the same. You have 6 cards in your hand that never change or improve or anything like that, so the same 6 cards every round. And each card has 2 of the 6 potential actions listed. So there are 6 potential actions you can take of the game. Each card shows 2 of them. And each round, you're going to play 2 cards on your turn. Then it goes around the table. You play another 2 cards, goes around the table. And then you play 1 more card for a total of 5 actions per round. 1 card is unused. So in a 6-round game, that's a total of 30 actions you're going to have to frankly get a lot of stuff done. Once you use a card for one of the 2 actions listed, and this is probably obvious, you can't use it for the other action until you pick up all your cards at the end of the round. So there's some consideration to, if I play this card for action A, I'm forgoing one of my chances to play action B, that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's go over the 6 actions really quickly. The first is mining. Here you're going to be laying a mining tile. There's a supply of mining tiles, and put it onto a board that represents the Kutná Hora underground where the ore was mined. And you're going to gain ore that goes into the city. More about that later. And there's a little bit of an area control thing in the mines with scores at the end. The next 3 actions all have to do with building buildings. So there's an action to reserve a building. There's an action to reserve a plot in the city. And then finally, once you have a building in reserve, once you have a plot reserved, then you can take another action to actually build the building. So this is another thing to consider. If you're looking to build a building, and you will be in this game, more likely than not, it's going to take 1/10 of your entire game to build a building. It's 3 turns out of 30 to build a building. So now that I've talked a little bit about building buildings, I think it's a good time to get into the dynamic economy, again, the main gimmick of the game. So there's going to be 2 little card holders that you construct when you first play this game. They each hold a set of cards with a slider in front of the 6 commodities in the game. And whatever number shows through the slider is the current going rate for the commodity. And whenever more silver ore is discovered in the town, like I said, when you go mining, you often will discover more silver ore. You flip a card in the stack representing the amount of ore in the town, which will affect the price of the 3 commodities that are tied to the amount of silver the town can make. So whenever ore is discovered, the ore deck gets flipped, increasing the amount of ore in the town, and the 3 commodities that have to do with silver ore, the prices are affected. Conversely, when things happen in the town that attract people to the town, like whenever you build buildings or whenever like economic boons are discovered, that attracts more people to the town. So you flip a card in the other stack, which represents the town population. And then you see things that are concerned with population fluctuate. So for example, when the population goes up, the price of beer, for example, goes up because there's more demand, unless somebody builds a beer hall, in which case you slide the slider down and the price of beer goes down. So that's how the sort of economy is represented and is like visualized in the game. That's a very simplified explanation, but it's a really cool way, I think, to account for price fluctuations. There are games that do this in other ways, like more of like push and pull type of things where supply affects demand, and you can see like once more things are added to the economy, the price goes down. But I think this makes things a little more complex and a little more opaque, for better or worse. Since I've played the game, I've noticed that the reviews for it have been really varied. It seems to be a game that people either love or hate. Of course, there's a number of reasons for that, but I think that one of the biggest ones is the opacity of the economy. And I get that. Sometimes you'll add to the population thinking that the prices are going to increase and they don't immediately, or you build a building looking to cash in on selling something that's, currently expensive, only to find out that by adding a building that makes that product in the market, you actually push down the prices, which can be like a bad thing to realize. I've also seen people on BGG ask one of the designers for the spreadsheet that shows exactly how the market moves rather than like have the cards be flipped. And he's shared it, but he did with the caveat that it wasn't how he intended the game to be played. He wanted that opacity. And I think I like it better that way. I think in general, you get an understanding, you have a feeling of how your actions are going to influence the economy, even if those changes don't happen immediately. So I think having the things like in a spreadsheet right in front of you does take away from some of the interesting aspects of the game. More about the economy real quick. Anytime you need resources, like for example, wood to build buildings, you don't buy them and then collect little wood pieces or anything like that. You just pay the going rate for them. So if I need 3 wood to build a building and wood is currently going for 5 each, according to like the little slider thing, I pay 15 coins and I build the building. So the only resource in the game that you're actually holding on to is cash. All right, let's go back to the 6 actions. We've gone over 4 of them already. The 5th and a crucial one, obviously probably, is income. This is where all your buildings produce and you make money. It's the same sort of thing where if you're making like 4 wood and 2 silver and the going rate for wood is 3 coins each and the going rate for silver is 5 coins each, you just get 22 coins. You just multiply production times current rate, and that's how much money you make. Finally, the last action is building St. Barbara's Cathedral. This is a bit of like a unique action that's off on its own, where it lets you, if you've acquired these little special shield pieces during the course of the game, you build part of the central cathedral that gives you like a one-time bigger bonus. It's sort of one of those off-the-side things that give you a little cool injection of goods or some benefit that you'll often want to time and keep an eye on, like if your opponents have these shields that allow them to build on Santa Barbara's Cathedral, because they might potentially swipe something out from under you that you sort of are banking on. And speaking of keeping an eye on your opponents, this is I think a pretty big thing in Kutná Hora, because maybe you want to build something, but wood is too expensive, and you're waiting for somebody to build a wood-producing building to push the price down, because sometimes you can't build that wood-producing building. Let me explain that. So depending on player count, you have access to only certain types of building. So you might be able to build like wood, silver, and beer buildings, but that means you can't really affect the production of ore, for example. In a 2-player game, there's no crossover. Like one player can build certain things, the other player can build certain things, and there's no crossover. But in a 3 or 4-player game, there is crossover. Like you and one opponent can potentially build a certain type of building. And so you need to pay attention in those cases to see what your opponent in this circumstance is potentially building. There's a bunch I haven't covered, but I will say that I really, really liked Kutná Hora. I'm a little concerned about recommending it, given how divisive it seems to be. But I think that if you're into economic games, you definitely should at least try it out and see what you think. At the very least, I think it's going to be interesting for people who like economic games. I think if you like interactive Euros, you've got to try it for the same reason. Maybe the opacity is going to be a deal breaker. Maybe the fact that scoring is often close at the end of the game will bug you. I think there's an argument to be made that like because scoring is close, that maybe that means like just do whatever you want and everything will sort of shake out in the end. I don't think that that's really a sign of that as much as people have made it out to be. I think Kutná Hora is really interesting. I think it's a relatively easy game to teach that is loaded with decisions that I find really interesting. I know that some will argue that the opacity of the dynamic economy is going to render some of those decisions less interesting. But I think that, again, you get a feeling of how your decisions are going to play out down the road. And even if they don't go your way now, I think this is also a game that rewards, interestingly, both like long-term planning and, more importantly, like thinking on your feet and pivoting. Kellen often will say that his favorite games to check out are the ones that get a bunch of low ratings and a bunch of high ratings on BGG, the ones that are sort of polarizing. And it appears, from what I've seen, that Kutná Hora is one of those games. So I'd personally highly recommend Kutná Hora, even if it turns out that it's not a game for you in the end. I still think it will be for a lot of people. And for those that it's not for, I think at least it'll be interesting. And it's not, for as heavy a game as it is, not super cumbersome to teach or to understand. So that is Kutná Hora by Andre Bryston, Peter Kaslava, and Pavel Jarosic, and published by CGE.
Who will like this more, me or Neelan?
It's very tough to say that. I think, because it has like Euro-y stuff that I think appeals to Neelan. It has like planning, and I think also Neelan doesn't mind like games that can be tactical and also strategic. I think it has some few moments that you're going to appreciate Kellen. Like somebody's like, Kellen is the wood guy, and people are begging Kellen to put a wood building out to make the price of wood go down, and Kellen just sitting on it saying like, no, I'm not doing it. Get some money somewhere because I'm not building your wood.
I love
and there's
that.
stuff like that. Yeah. So I don't know if either of you are like huge into economic games. I know you both like economic games. I don't think you need to be like an economic game devotee to love this game, but I think you both would at least like playing it the first time. And I think it could be a game that either of you really like, but I wouldn't necessarily like stake up my house on or anything like that. But I think you both like it for sure, or at least like trying it the first time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very down to try this. It seems like something I would enjoy. I also just love the look of it, which does a lot. But yeah, I want to try it for sure.
Oh! Before you go on, thank you for mentioning that, Neelan, because the pieces. So there's like player pieces. You have like little buildings. You have little markers to mark how much your production is, and I thought that these were like resin pieces or something, but they're actually like, they're called like afterwood. I forget the term, but it's something that CGE was using. They're basically, I guess, like the scraps of wood that are like pressed together and like painted.
It's like molded recycled wood, right? Is the idea?
It is wonderful. It looks great. I thought they were little plastic or little like resin things. And to find out that they're like recycled wood, the pieces are wonderful. And if this is like something that people could do for other games, they're great. They're really, really great. Really love those components.
All right. We have to do just a mild history lesson as we talk about Slay the Spire, the board game. Okay? We don't know what's happening in Mark's house. He's lost the headphones. He's turning lights on and off. Is there an exorcism happening, Mark? Okay, Slay the Spire, the board game, is a board game version of a video game. However, the video game is called Slay the Spire. The video game is a roguelike deck-building dungeon crawler. How's that for loaded terminology? I packaged them up, I twisted it, and I presented it to you on a bow. Some of you will know what I say, and other people will say, what the Ellen? Deck building, right? You're building your deck as you go. Dungeon crawler, you're making your way deeper and deeper into a dungeon. And roguelike, every time you lose or every time you die, you have to start over. So that fun and addiction of a roguelike game comes from each time you're going to go after a different type of deck, or you're going to be acquiring different types of items, going down different paths that make your build feel more or less broken. All right, that is Slay the Spire. So you say, why is there a board game version of that? And I would say, yes, I kind of agree with you. But let's keep going. Slay the Spire, the board game, has been made by the developers, Contention Games, the people who made, I think, Contention Games. Contention Games? They made Imperium the Contention.
Yeah, it's Contention Games.
Well, I just knew that. I didn't look it up. I just knew it.
And like you're a podcast.
I would say that the hype for the Slay the Spire, the board game right now, is off the charts. Okay? We have people on our Discord who are losing their minds to play this game. Okay. It is a big box. It's a giant thing. I have the collector's edition. I kickstarted this. I kickstarted this for holiday 2024 with my brothers who love Slay the Spire. But Neelan begged me to play it. He said, we have to do it. We have to do it now. We convinced Christina to play as well. So we played a 3-player game of Slay the Spire, the board game. It is really hard to sort of even unpack what this is. It's a co-op game where each person represents a character. Each character has their own special deck, and each person in each room of this dungeon crawl will fight a monster. And you will be deciding, should I be attacking more this turn? Should I be blocking more this turn? Should I be debuffing the enemies? We all are deciding together, which enemy should we target? We know they're going to do 7 damage to us. We know they're going to do 4 damage to Neelan, which he can't afford to sustain. So how do we work together to eliminate this room? At the end of the room, then you get new cards. You draw from your deck, or you get a little bonus, or you go to an event that says you can upgrade a card. Every card in the game has a reverse side that is upgraded, either reducing the turn cost to play it or increasing its strength. You have a deck of special yellow cards, which are rare, which you're not going to get that many of. You are playing through 3 acts of the game, with each act being sort of 60 to 90 minutes, and you're saving your deck between those acts, so you're specializing. This game I'm working on Frost. This game I'm building a defensive deck. When you die, if you die, you lose, and you have to start over, back to that base deck. But the game also includes sort of not a campaign because you reset, because it's a roguelike, but sort of unlocks or ascending. So if you've played a roguelike game, again, you'll understand this sort of scaffolding of now we're playing the Ascension 5, where things are just a little bit harder than they were. This game took over an hour easily to sort and put back in the box. Easily. And that's not even with sleeving, which I also did because I'm an idiot. The game is disastrously large on the table. It is tons of fun, and it is very similar to the video game, which you can only play in single-player form. Neelan, what did you think of we got through 2 of 3 acts. We have still not died, and I haven't dared take this down, right? This is still on my table because I'm not taking it down and putting it back. No. We are going to save, and we are going to play Act 3, hopefully this week. Neelan, how do you feel about our chances of conquering Act 3, and how do you feel about Slay the Spire, the board game, the card game, the roguelike, the co-op, the what have you, the latest hotness?
I liked this a fair bit. So I think for some context, I should say that I played a very little of Slay the Spire, the video game, prior to playing the board game. I've now, since based off the board game, gone and played back quite a bit more of Slay the Spire, the video game. So the things I think that are interesting, obviously the switch from single player to co-op is great. I think that's lovely. I do think that the trade-off, which is always going to be the case when you sort of try to represent the video game as a board game, there's a fair bit of fiddle involved with this. It's a lot of roll a die to see what the things are going to do, reveal cards, move tokens on top of things, take tokens off of things, modify your health, move meters up and down. You're doing that, but you're also largely doing it all simultaneously, which I think helps because you kind of just manage your own fiddle while other people are doing theirs. Everyone's kind of just moving their hands around the table. Things are happening. You're occasionally shouting to each other like, hey, I'm going to die unless we take care of this, which is great. That's what you want in a cooperative game. So there's a fair bit of interaction, but not to the point that the whole game slows down while you math out every single turn of the game, which is great. That's exactly how it should be. The pain points, that's where you collaborate, and that's where it works really, really well. Like Alan said, though, it's a lot of stuff to represent these systems. What is effectively, 1/3 of an hour-long run in the video game becomes, an hour-long game or even a 90-minute game. So it slows down a lot in that sense. They've done a lot of really smart stuff in adapting it, though. Like, in general, you're working with the lot smaller numbers. All of your buffs and your boons just increase your things by +1 or plus or -1 instead of percentages. So it's just easier to manage and keep inside your head in that way. But otherwise, it's pretty faithful. I was really impressed by how it represents pretty much all aspects of the video game in board game form, just in condensed and simplified versions. I was very impressed by it. It plays fast, even though it seems like a pretty big bear to set up and tear down. While we were in it, it was moving quick, and I loved that.
Yeah, I think it's clearly not a game for me, right? That's the starting place. And I've played hundreds of hours. Well, no, not hundreds of hours. I've played more than 10 and less than 50 hours of Slay the Spire, the video game. But, first of all, I can't imagine anyone, this game is $10, and you can play it on your toaster, okay? The graphics aren't great. The idea, and again, I'm going to get flamed because I've already seen it, the idea that you would play this game solo over just playing Slay the Spire, it's up.
Yeah.
Something's amiss. It's the simplification. It's not fun. You're just moving around more. And now you're doing it on a table. Like it shouldn't exist and it shouldn't work. I would say it's done very well. Like very well. It's very smartly reduced per Nealon. The other thing that I learned playing Slay the Spire, the co-op deck building experience, Nealon, Christina, and I, okay, we do not know how to cooperate. It does not happen very often we would self-select to play a co-op game. It's a little bit like every man for himself, and then we start helping each other once death is imminent, and that would end our run. The whole point of the game is to be like, okay, let's do this in this order, that in that order. And no, not in our game. We are out for ourselves until it affects us. Then we start helping each other. That was the first thing. And then the second thing was Nealon and I had a rules dispute on how an elite enemy would distribute enemies. And Nealon wanted to distribute them in the way that benefited him the most. And I wanted to distribute them.
Way?
I wanted to distribute them
way?
in a way that would hurt Nealon the most. And it was so
Mark,
clear that we were arguing on behalf of...
We get to our first elite fight, and Kellen wants us to fight 3 elite things at the same time.
Don't tell about that. That was an accident.
And he's adamant. This is definitely what they mean. This is definitely what the rule means.
And I was wrong, and Wagger saved us. I think that like it's that sort of everything you love about upgrading your character over and over again, little dopamine hits over and over again. Way more fun than it has any right to be. I think, Mark, you should 1,000,000% try this. I don't think there's any world where you want the $100 plus. There's a lot of stuff going on in here, but absolutely spectacular. One that I'm very excited for Christmas for. But again, it's like, how many runs are we going to do when they're all 3 hours long to get through it? I don't know, man.
Yeah, that is probably the hard sell, is unless you were committed to like doing this repeatedly in a dedicated session, it does just feel like a bear to like do multiple playthroughs of, for sure.
I totally understand that, like, why would you do this solo when you can just play the video game version? But given how much of a bear it sounds like to like keep a group together and go through these runs, I think of it as like, if I'm going to play it, I'm going to play it solo, and you think that's just not the way to do it.
No, I mean, you don't need to keep the group together between runs.
Okay.
So it's like
you can
you can play with people, unlock new cards, and then those new cards are not going to be, it's like, it's almost like at what difficulty do you want to play it more than anything else?
I see.
And so a game is more like the 3 runs, so it's more like a 3-act campaign.
I see.
Where you're unlocking small upgrades that you'd probably run out of quickly. I think that, again, if you don't have a Switch or you don't have a computer, again, that's as good as a toaster oven.
It is also on mobile, so super easy.
Oh, and if you don't have a phone, okay. What's the quote, Nealon? What am I supposed to say? What, you don't have phones? Something like that?
Yes. Perfect.
Though I guess I work for that company, so I probably shouldn't say that line loudly and proclaim that. You can play this on your phone. Actually, I knew that because I started showing it to my boss on my phone when he was asking for it to be described. Are you playing it on your phone, Nealon?
Yeah, I had it already on PC, but then having access to it, because I got it for free on my phone effectively, so I was like, yeah, I'll try this again on my phone.
That is Slay the Spire, the board game, the latest hotness. Let me tell you, if you want frothing at the mouth discussions, just join our Discord and talk about Slay the Spire, the board game, and tell me how wrong I'm in. Tell me how much you love moving those cards around by yourself instead of using your phone and or your toaster and or your Nintendo Switch.
All right. Before we get into the Golden Geek Award nominee reviews, a couple things for the middle here. First, if you haven't joined our Patreon already and you're interested in more content with the crew, by all means, go to boardgamebarrage.com/Patreon or patreon.com/boardgamebarrage and check that out. We release 2 bonus episodes a month. The next one will feature the latest escapades in my return to playing soccer, my soccer team. We had a playoff game today. I've been talking about the run-up to it in the Patreon, and boy, do I have stories about today's game. So that is a little teaser. Things went down. I am bloody. I'm literally bloody after the game. So check that out if you're interested. A couple other things. We got Africa. Neelan?
That happened.
Yes, we got Africa. So if you go to, and I mentioned this before, if you go to boardgamebarrage.com/map, you can fill out a little form, mention the city that you're in, and if you're looking for people to play games with who are also fans of Board Game Barrage, that is a way to do it. And I have been begging for our listeners in Africa to represent, and I am happy to say that Jonabone63 from your homeland, Neelan,
amazing.
has represented. He is our first listener on the map from Africa, in South Africa.
Cape Tonian, too, I should say.
There you go. There you go. So very happy to see that. While I'm giving props to people who are the only representation in their nation, I'm going to go around the map here. Why not? We have Karar 2K in Pakistan. We have a longtime listener, stalwart listener, Akmal Fariki in Malaysia, who is a patron and a longtime listener. So he is the Malaysian representation. We have Board Game Herd in Honolulu, which is not a nation, but we used to be a nation and is the only representation in Hawaii. We have RF in the UAE. We have Cubus in Poland. We have Dylan23 _ EST in Estonia. That's probably what the EST is for, I just realized. We have A _ Junis in Finland. We have Sorry for Laughing in Portugal. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for going to boardgamebarrage.com/map and representing where you live. And if you live in those places, hey, go to boardgamebarrage.com/map and let people know, and maybe you'll get another person to play board games with, which I know is, again, a tough thing to get. It's a necessity unless you're only going to play solo games. And if you're looking for another person to play games with, why not check out boardgamebarrage.com/map?
And we've already started to see the first fruits of this, of people having meetups based on the map in the Discord. So really cool to see that.
Absolutely. And again, a big thank you to Elongated Muffin, who is the person who has been running this and suggested it. So big thank you to Elongated Muffin on our Discord. One more thing, this is going to appeal to a very small contingent of our listeners, because I want to shout out my friendly local game store, which is super friendly. This is Night and Day Games. I want to shout them out because they just moved into a brand new location. It is an amazing location. I mean, they have a huge space that they just moved into. It is phenomenal. When you guys come around to visit again, I'll show you. It's the best board game store I've ever seen. It's amazing, all the room they have in there. And listeners will know that I'm like mainly into trading games to get new games, but they've had some incredible sales. They're not doing anything for me. They've never given me a break on pricing. So this is not sponsored at all. I just want to shout them out because they've been fantastic to me. And this new space will knock your socks off. If you're ever in Vegas, I would really recommend checking them out. And I just want to, because their customer service has been amazing, I just want to shout out all the people who work there real quick, because I know they listen to the show. So big shout out to Tony, William, Nathan, Grant, Kelly, Zoe, Yasina, Marshall, Tracy, Robert, Lisa, Brandon. Look at all these people working for them. Anthony, Brenda, Priscilla, Ty, Brian, Abraham, Ray, and then the owners, Hassan, Michelle, and Morgan. They are all great folks. They're always there with a smile. Again, no sponsorship at all. They're not giving me anything. They're just a fantastic place. And I'm telling you, the new store will knock your socks off. It's just an amazing space in a lovely part of Vegas. So big shout out to 9 Day Games. If you're interested and you're ever in town, check them out. All right, let's move on to the Golden Geek Awards. So we're going to go over the nominees for the Golden Geek Awards and talk about games we've played and what we think, and maybe, pick the game we think is going to win. Again, they probably have already been announced by the time this comes out, but let's go over it. So first category is 2-player games. So the nominees are Boop, The British Way, Counterinsurgency at the End of the Empire, Disney Lorcana, Dracula versus Van Helsing, Lacuna, Orienberger Canal, Sail, Sky Team, Star Wars The Deck Building Game, and Undaunted Battle of Britain. How many of these games have you guys played? I've played Boop.
I played Boop.
Okay. I've played Sky Team and Star Wars The Deck Building Game.
I played Boop, Sky Team, and Undaunted Battle for Britain.
Okay.
I played Lacuna actually as well.
Boop. I have played... Nope, I've looked at Sky Team. Sky Team's obviously going to win, guys. I don't play two-player games.
I think that's likely.
What about Disney Lorcana? I feel like there's a lot of... Or did that go not so well?
Even Star Wars, the deck building game, has been doing gangbusters right now.
Okay.
I know not as much as Lorcana, but on BGG. You always have to think on BGG.
Yeah, I could believe it being... If we're talking about who will get this, I could believe it being Lorcana or Star Wars, just based on
Star Wars has
widespread
more
popularity.
reviews than SkyTeam.
What does? Sorry,
Star Wars deck building
Star Wars is
has
more
more
than
reviews
SkyTeam.
and
Yeah,
5
that
times
makes sense.
more than Lorcana.
Oh,
Which is
interesting.
interesting,
Okay, yeah.
given how much more popular Lorcana probably is at large.
Yeah, that is strange. Then I guess it seems likely that it would be Star Wars.
I wonder if card players that would play Lorcana, I presume, would be going to BGG as much. You know,
children.
Okay, so what would you guys pick? Who do you think is going to win? You're saying
I mean, it looks like Star Wars.
based on
I'm going to pick
Calvin's metrics?
SkyTeam
Yeah.
just because everyone votes on this, even though they haven't played the games.
Right?
So
Which I
they
have
don't
not
want-
done. I
I've
voted
never
for
done
only
in
games I
my
played.
life.
That's right. You're a man of integrity. Calvin is a man of
I
integrity.
want SkyTeam to win. SkyTeam's my favorite from the list for sure.
Yeah,
Mark.
I want. Go ahead.
You missed an amazing conversation with Neon before the show where
Please,
I was
fill
pitting
me
him
in.
against 2 different video games. And I was like, how dare you say this about this video game because you like this video game? And he's
Right.
like, first of all, you haven't played this new video game. And second of all, you haven't played the other video game that you're comparing it to. And it was so funny how quickly he shut me down. It was like he was like accustomed to how to deal with me. He got me.
The
And it was
Kellen
like
playbook.
over, and I was like, wow, I got owned.
That's funny. I want SkyTeam.
I think SkyTeam is fantastic for what it's
Yeah.
worth. I think it's really good.
But I think I'm going to go against Callan's numbers here, and I'm going to go with Disney. I'm going to go with the power of Disney with Disney Arcana. All right, next one up. Doesn't matter if you've played these games because this is about artwork and presentation. Apiary, The Castles of Burgundy Special Edition, Darwin's Journey, Deliverance, Distilled, Earth, Earthborn Rangers, Expeditions, Forest Shuffle, Septima, and Voidfall. First of all, I'm going to say that, so I've already placed my votes on these, but I did not vote for Castles of Burgundy just out of principle because I don't like the idea of a special edition being able to win things.
It's like
Yeah.
they paid their way to the top.
Yeah, they had their chance. They, during the first iteration,
I
like
see.
a special edition doesn't really work for me. So doesn't matter if you play these games.
I also don't think that the special edition is that nice looking in the grand scheme of things.
I haven't seen it's just big, right? It's just like
Yeah, it's big and chunky and very high production values, but I don't think as from an art or colors perspective, it looks particularly nice.
I picked Darwin's Journey as my number one.
I like the look of Darwin's Journey a lot. I'm surprised Earth is on here. I don't think Earth is that much of a looker.
I vote for every game that I've seen. I guess I could look at the BGG pictures, but the games I've seen in person, I voted for all of them, and I have Earth as my last one, as my 7th out of 7.
I think that of this list, Septima is the one that jumps out to me as having a very refined and cohesive and quite lovely look to it. Just a very, very gorgeous art style.
That's
I
my
thought
number
was quite
2.
striking.
Yeah, that's my number 2.
Voidfall, bro? Do you even
Voidfall-
Voidfall?
Voidfall is a little bit garish, I think personally, but I do think it is pretty nice looking. It's
And
certainly
how
not
can you ignore Earthborn Rangers, which is like the hottest hotness of all time?
I think, yeah. I mean, look, I think Earthborn would be my 3. I don't know that Voidfall I think would be up. Well, maybe, but Earthborn Rangers I think is lovely as well, and that will probably win. Would be my guess. But do
Yeah.
that many people have Earthborn Rangers? I don't know.
It doesn't matter. It's like
Probably
if the
doesn't
game
matter.
is bad, it can't win best artwork. That's the reality. That's true. Name one time that's happened.
I didn't vote for Voidfall or Earthborn because I have not seen them in person. Again, I could probably look at the pictures, but I just have not voted for those. So what do you think is going to win?
Probably Castles of Burgundy because it's the one that most people will recognize from the list.
Interesting. What about Apiary?
No.
No? Not the
Boo.
Stonemeyer factor?
It's about space bees.
Okay.
I pick
I think Stonemeyer
expeditions
could be,
over
but
space
I-
bees.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
Expeditions
because
might
you
be
can
good.
just trace your way to good art.
All right. Let's move on without addressing that to cooperative games. So we have the ART project, the ART project, Daybreak, Deliverance, Earthborn Rangers, Kinfire Chronicles, Night's Fall, Marvel Zombies, the Zombicide game, Sail, SkyTeam, Sleeping Gods, Distant Skies, and Unmatched Adventures, Tales to Amaze. I believe I've played only one of these, and that is SkyTeam, and that's the one I think should win and is going to win. Although I know Earthbound Rangers has a lot of heat there, so maybe that's a potential winner.
I want to say that Unmatched Adventures has also been incredibly popular, but I think also obviously built off the back of Unmatched, that certainly doesn't hurt it. I have not played it, though. I have played SkyTeam, and I've played Distant Skies, well, a game of Distant Skies. I think that Distant Skies would be my pick based off those two games that I've played.
Right.
But I'm very intrigued by Match Adventures, and I think it probably has a decent shot.
Do you think that might be the winner?
Potentially.
Kellen, what do
You
the
would
numbers
play
say?
a game called Tales to Amaze.
Tales to Amaze.
Kellen,
Wow.
have you run the numbers on these?
No, I have not, but I haven't even looked at these co-op games. I pick Earthborn Rangers because that's the most cynical answer, even though no one has played it.
Okay. All right. Next up is expansions. Okay, so I don't think I've played any of these expansions. Have you guys played any of these expansions?
Yeah, I've played Marine Worlds, and that is it.
Okay, so let me go through them real quick. Arc Nova Marine Worlds, Beyond the Sun Leaders, The New Dawn, Butaku Restoron, I don't know, Cascadia Landmarks, Darwin's Journey, Fireland Expansion, Lost Ruins of Arnak, The Missing Expedition, Return to Dark Towers, Covenant, Sea Salt and Paper, Extra Salt, which is a funny title, Spirit Island, Nature Incarnate, and Tapestry, Fantasies, and Features. So, yes, have not played any of them, have not voted for any of them, but if I was just going to vote based on one I want to play, I probably would go Arc Nova. I've been getting more and more into Arc Nova, so I'd like to play with Marine Life.
Yeah, I think Marine Worlds is interesting because I don't think it's an amazing or even an essential expansion, but I mean, Arc Nova is incredibly popular, so it's, I think anyone that's played Arc Nova, why not grab Marine Worlds, I suppose. But I don't know enough about the others. I know that the Lost Ruins of Arnak expansion
that could be
adds like a couple of interesting things. Like I think it adds like a campaign mode, if I'm not mistaken.
I'll get that for Kellen.
Yeah, there we go.
And solo play.
And solo play. Well, there we go. Perfect.
It's got to be Arc Nova's going to win this.
I think it's probably going to be Arc Nova. Yeah.
All right, innovative. So we have Apiary, Daybreak, Deliverance, Earthborn Rangers, Far Away, which is a game we all played together, Hegemony, which is a game that I desperately want to play that I have sitting on my shelf for a while, Kutná Hora, the game I just reviewed, SkyTeam, Station Fall, Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West, and Voidfall. So I voted, of the 5 games I played, which are Station Fall, Kutná Hora, SkyTeam, Far Away, and Hegemony. Oh, I mean, I haven't played Hegemony, so 4 games I played. I voted Station Fall number 1.
Ticket to Ride Legacy for innovative feels like a real insult to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
A real insult to what? The word innovative?
Yes, exactly.
On behalf of Innovative or on behalf of all board games?
On behalf of all board games.
You're saying that Apiary, the Stonemeyer games release about space
Look,
bees?
I don't know anything about Apiary.
What's
I
your hang up with
take
Space Bees?
Ticket to Ride, a game that has had 1 billion versions, and then slap Legacy, a genre that has 1 billion iterations.
Yeah,
I
but
think
have you
that
ever
is
combined
not
the
a
two?
Get the
recipe
word
for
legacy
innovation.
out of your mouth.
I would love this to be Station Fall. I can't imagine that's going to happen.
Just not enough people played it.
Yeah, I think it's also just too gritty to rise to that level. But
Earthborn Rangers, fire away.
I wouldn't mind seeing Kutná Hora go there too.
I could see SkyTeam as well.
Yeah.
I know why. I don't know that innovative is what I would
Yeah,
describe
I
it, but I think the UI is actually really striking in a way that's like actually maybe I would describe as innovative. Certainly inventive.
I'm going to skip the game. For some reason, Game of the Years are right in the middle. I'm going to save them to the end because that's how you build tension.
Yeah.
So we're going to go to Party Game. So we got Among Cultists, a social deduction thriller, Blob Party, Chicken, Dixit Disney Edition, Hollywood 1947, How Dare You, Nikojima, Pray Another Day, The Same Game, and That's Not a Hat. Of these, I think I've played 2 of them. That's Not a Hat and The Same Game. What do you guys think?
Blob Party.
Have you
Best
played Blob
name.
Party?
No, I haven't, but I love that name. This actually looks pretty good. We need to get Blob Party.
Blob Party looks to be based on
Existing
another, yeah, an existing IP. It's a co-op, Neil, and I'm not playing that. Yeah, I think it's based on an existing blob-based IP.
What does that
Blob.
mean?
The Blob.
It
that
means
movie
I
from,
can't
like-
think of the game that it's based on, but I'm looking at these illustrations, and either they ripped off the previous Blob game, or it's a continuation of the Blob universe.
I see.
That's Not a Hat must win this. I have played Chicken, the same game, and That's Not a Hat. Is Nekojima even a Oh, it's a dexterity game. Yeah. That's Not a Hat, I feel like, has got this.
That's my vote too.
It
Yeah,
deserves
I think
it,
that
and
would
it
be
will win.
my choice. Among Cultists is like the Among Us ripoff game, which I actually do want to try. It seems pretty neat, but it makes me want to try that more if it's here. But anyway, yeah, I think That's Not a Hat.
Okay, let's go over the titles in print and play.
Why would we do this? Does anyone know anything about this?
That's probably true. I guess it doesn't make sense to go over things we have literally no idea about. I've seen
Tiny
Flip
mini
Town.
golf.
I will say Tiny Mini Golf I have played, actually.
Okay,
What?
look at that. Look at Dylan. Doing the
When
work.
have you been printing and
Dylan's
playing?
doing the
I
work.
did. I do not ever print and play things, but I did print and play Tiny Mini Golf.
How
How did this happen?
Okay, so astute listeners will know that this is one of the games from a previous Essen upcoming list that I saw on the list, and I was like, that seems really, really, really interesting. It's a roll and write game where what you're doing is designing a golf course for the person next to you to beat. It's a cute idea. I don't think it's very good in execution, actually, unfortunately, which is a bit of a bummer.
All right. Well, that's our print and play coverage.
Yeah.
Next category, solo games. We've got 20 Strong, Siberian, Deliverance, Earth, Earthborn Rangers, Halls of Hegra, Hoplomachus Victorium, Mr. President, the American Presidency, Legacy of You, Voidfall, and Witchcraft. Of these, I've played one, but it's number one with a bullet for me, and that is Mr. President, of course. I think it has 0.0 chance of winning, but I voted for it emphatically as I could.
The closest I've come to any of these is I've played the previous version of Witchcraft, which is Resist by the Undaunted guys, and didn't love it, to be honest. Okay. So but that's as much as I can say about this list, unfortunately. I do think people like Resist a lot for what it's worth, and I kind of vaguely remember quite a bit of excitement over Witchcraft. I don't know if that's going to be enough to carry it. I think that this will be...
Don't say it.
Fire away, Earthborn Rangers. Can it win everything? I don't think it can.
You don't think it can win this? I think if it's on like a high, like you're saying, I think it could.
Wait, but there's one of the games in the universe that I like, Siberian. That's what I pick.
What's Siberian?
It's in the same
one of the
universe as the
as Blob Party.
No.
It's the dream artwork.
Yeah, what are the other
Click
games?
on it, Neil, and you'll know what it is.
I mean, I like this weird little 20-sided die. Oh, no, that's not a die. Never mind.
Look at the image, Neil, and you'll know.
I don't recognize this at all. Oh, I do recognize this as Onirim. Yeah,
Arion, Castellion.
Oh yeah, I will definitely get Siberian. Damn.
Thank you.
I'm gonna get that right away. I love those games.
Talking so much, and then now you want
to and this is like the cyber
the best
version
of the series
that.
so far, Neil.
Fantastic.
Done.
All right. Next, let's go to another one that I don't have much to talk about. Best board game app: Capital Lux 2, Discordia, Fantasy Realms, Fleet the Dice Game, Munchkin Digital. That's a big one in the Kellen household. Numsters, which is a funny title. Power Grid board game, Super Mega Lucky Box, Twilight Struggle Red Sea, Unmatched Digital Edition. Have any of you played any of these?
Nope. I mean, I've played Fleet the Dice Game, not Fleet the Dice Game, the app.
Yeah, I played some of these board games.
Yeah.
Does that count?
I'm voting for Numsters based on the title alone. Next.
Call. Yeah. I don't know. Unmatched Digital Edition. That's pretty cool.
Now you're going to get that one, too.
Unmatched. Never mind. I'm thinking of Daunted. Well, Unmatched. Yeah. Okay. Unmatched is good, though.
Thematic game. We have Deliverance, Distilled, Dune Imperium Uprising, Earthborn Rangers, Hegemony, Sky Team, Station Fall, Thunder Road Vendetta, Voidfall, and The Witcher Old World. I have played 3 of these, and I voted
Dune Imperium.
I haven't played Uprising, so I didn't vote for that one, but that's probably going to win, right?
I think that's probably going to win, and it probably should
Agreed.
win. Although I would probably pick Station Fall over it, but I think it should win.
I voted Station Fall,
that means, but
Thunder Road, and then Sky Team.
Thunder Road's great.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good thematic game. War games real quick. We have Bloodstones, Downfall, Conquest of the Third Reich, General Orders, World War II, Halls of Hegra, The Hunt, North Africa 41, Plantagenet, I think I'm mispronouncing that, Cousins War for England, Triumph, Marengo, Undaunted, Battle of Britain, People Power, Insurgency in the Philippines, British Way, Counterinsurgency at the End of Empire, and Weimar, Fight for Democracy. I've played none of these, but I am very, very interested. I have a copy of People Power, which I really, really want to play, and very interested in British Way and Weimar. But have you guys played any of these? Bloodstones, I know, at least was high.
Bloodstones.
Oh, you played General Orders, right?
Yeah, I played General Orders and I played Battle of Britain. General Orders is interesting, but I didn't love it. And Battle for Britain is probably the worst Undaunted. Kind of surprised it's on here. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know which of those two I would even pick. Maybe just Undaunted on principle, but yeah, I don't know.
All right, before we go into the Game of the Year ones, let's go over the one that we are one-time champions of, Best Podcast. We have Beyond Solitaire, we have Blue Peg, Pink Peg, Board Game Barbecue, Board Game Hot Takes, Decision Space, 5 Games for Doomsday, Friendly Ties, Game Brain, The Gamecasters, One Stop Co-op Shop, and Talk Cardboard. Now, we don't want to, I think, necessarily put our finger on the scale. I will say that I've placed my votes. I will not reveal who got the number one vote. But we have some good friends on this list that I would be happy for any of them to win. We got 5 Games for Doomsday, obviously. I think that 5 Games is going to win. That is my guess. But I know Blue Peg, Pink Peg has been around for a long time. Game Brain, another LA-based show that I'm a fan of, could win. I think they're up there. Decision Space, Board Game Hot Takes, Board Game Barbecue. I know they all listen to the show, so I would be happy for them to win as well. I'd be happy with any of these folks to win. I had not heard of Friendly Ties before, but that is John Gets Games podcast. So I listened to a couple episodes of that show, and I really enjoyed it as well. So, yeah, a lot of good ones here.
And Talk Cardboard is NPI's podcast, right?
Oh, is it? Okay, I was not
believe
aware of
so.
that. Okay.
So I think that's in for a good shot as well.
That's true. Yep.
Because didn't they almost win having released like 2 episodes one year?
Yeah, I think that is the case. But
Yeah, I have no comments on this stuff. I like a lot of these, and I don't like a lot of these. So here we are.
I love that. That's a nice little juicy little thing to leave on. Perfect. Okay, let's go to let's do the Game of the Years to wrap this up. First light game of the year. We've got Art Society, Bonsai, Far Away, Nar, Nemalia, Point City, Rebel Princess, That's Not a Hat, Thunder Road Vendetta, and Trailblazers. I have played 4 of these, and I voted Far Away as my number 1.
I think that this is between Thunder Road Vendetta and Nar for the.
Really? You don't think
Yeah.
that's a? I thought That's Not a Hat might get some.
Well, that's hard. It's harder to evaluate party games, and I find that whenever party games can be selected against non-party games, board gamers do not want to have a party.
Interesting.
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be Thunder Road Vendetta, but I think Nar is really good and might be my pick.
Rebel Princess, the one that I want to play the most. Yeah, I'm not picking. Listen, this is very cynical. This is not what I think is good. This is what I think is going to win. I just want to sound as intelligent as I possibly can for as many picks as I possibly can. You understand the parameters here?
Totally understand the parameters.
Okay, good.
Well, I'm clear on that.
Clear.
Yeah. I actually just traded for Rebel Princess.
Oh, nice. Yeah, there's a new version, so coming out, like a deluxe one, I think.
Okay.
So I think you may have gotten with the old
Okay,
one.
perfect. Okay.
I hate to break it to you.
No, I appreciate that. Medium game of the year, we've got Apiary. We've got Castles of Burgundy Special Edition, which I, again, did not vote for out of principle. Distilled, Earth, Expeditions, Forest Shuffle, Sky Team, Ticket to Ride Legacy, Legends of the West, The White Castle, which is one I wish I'd played, and World Wonders. And I have played 5 of these, and I picked Sky Team as my number 1.
Is Forest Shuffle really medium?
Medium, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the same about Sky Team, honestly. Sky
That's
Team's
true.
medium feels like a stretch to me. I would pick White Castle out of these, which
Have
I
you played it?
quite liked.
Okay.
Yeah. It surprised me a little bit because I had not played a lot of like the De Vere small box game, but White Castle is a very delightful medium weight Euro in an hour that has some cool combos going on. It's quite. Have you played it, Mark?
I have not. I wanted to.
I think you should play it. I think you'd like it a lot.
All right.
Anything but World Wonders.
Yeah.
I have World Wonders as my last on the list, so I'm with you. Finally, the only category that Kellen cares about, heavy game of the year. Here we have Age of Innovation, Darwin's Journey, Dune Imperium Uprising, Evacuation, Great Western Trail New Zealand, Hegemony, Kutná Hora, Nucleum, Scholars of the South Tigris, and Voidfall. I have played 3 of these, and I picked Kutná Hora as my number 1.
I mean, I think it's got to be Dune Imperium
Dune,
Uprising
yeah.
for the win.
Yeah.
But Nucleum has a lot of fans. I feel like
Yeah.
Voidfall kind of was a hit and a bounce. Scholars of the South Tigris, I feel like that's now so insular with its community of people who've, gone every direction 6 times and still want to keep going. Age of Innovation, though, could be potentially a dark horse, but I think there's some fatigue there after doing that 4 times or 3 times or whatever one we're on. It's got to be Dune Imperium Uprising.
I think it will likely be
fun group. Honestly,
Yeah,
this is my
absolutely.
favorite group of all the groups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just to be
I'm with
clear.
you.
This
Yeah.
definitely has the most stuff that I would like to play in it that I've not yet. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be Dune Imperium. And of the list, I actually not played that many of these except Dune Imperium. But Age of Innovation is the one that I'm the most excited to play of the remainder. Maybe Nucleum as well. Yeah.
All right. So that is going to do it for our review of the BGG Golden Geek nominees. Again, you will probably know how well or poorly we've done already, but that's the fun of listening to these things, I think. You don't care about our analysis. You care about if we're right or wrong, right? Because that's what I would care about if I listened. So that's going to do it for the episode. Thank you so much for listening. You can get in touch with us in a number of ways, including going to our Discord at boardgamebarrage.com/Discord, where you can go to the podcast channel and talk about the games you think should win or should have won if it's already in the past, the Golden Geeks. You can communicate to us through all forms of social media. We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we're on all that kind of stuff. You can email us at boardgamebarrage@gmail.com. Thank you so much, as always, to Heart Society for our intro and outro song, What's on Your Mind, Kid? And until next time, goodbye.
Bye-bye.
That one. But before we do that, got a little joke. But before we do that,
What, got a little joke? What do you mean? I've always got a little joke.
got a little joke.
What is it's like,
see it. I
damn,
saw your
Spunky? What are you...
I saw your lips starting to
You saw my
split.
lips move?
Yeah, I was like, oh, he's got something here. Give him space. Give the man space. But before we talk about the Golden Geek nominees, and a big happy birthday from Hannah to Hannah. I know that sounds like it doesn't make sense. It makes sense.